Okay, sound. So chapter 25 really deals with
We're taking notes.
waves in general. Waves in general. And 26 and 27, 28 deal with specific aspects of waves. Specific aspects of waves. So, sound. Sound is the energy caused by vibrating objects. Basically, mechanical energy is converted to sound energy. Sound energy is a mechanical energy. It's those compressions and rarefactions, pressure waves. Pitch is the same as frequency. Now, to show that these are the same, this mechanical waves. Now, see a movie? Now you see a movie? So that is a tuning. That is the tuning fork.
Let's visit.
So when it goes out is when we get our compressions going out. When it goes back in, you get the rarefactions.
Yeah, I used to play this one when I was a kid.
Why do you need a strobe light?
5 minutes outside, please.
Can I do 10?
Oh, excuse. Just go.
Make it 15.
Okay, sounds good. See you later.
Strobe light for it.
Well, if I don't have the strobe light, you can't see it moving because it's moving too fast.
Oh.
In order to see it, because this is moving basically 238 times a second. I think that's what this one is. It's like 238 hertz is the frequency of this tuning fork. So it's basically moving back and forth 238 times a second. So you really can't see it. So the strobe light allows us to see it moving up and down, to see that movement. But it really is this movement, this mechanical energy is pushing on the air like that. Okay. All right. So, a lot of our terms in this are based on human hearing. Human hearing. We define things by human hearing in the ranges of human hearing. Now, normal human hearing is 20 to 20,000 hertz, which means you can hear sounds between 20 and 20,000 hertz. And 20,000 hertz. Now, this does not mean you can vocalize this. It's like dogs. Dogs and cats can hear over a very much wider range of frequencies, but they can vocalize over a very small amount. In other words, they can produce sound over a very small amount of that. We actually can vocalize. We have a lot larger range of vocalization than, say, a cat or a dog, even though they can hear a lot more sound, especially on the high end of the frequencies on that. But so could we go like produce sounds? So we could probably, we get close to 20 hertz, not quite. We can't do that, and we can go up maybe about 2,000. We can vocalize up to about 2,000 or so. I mean, a good singer, a good like soprano, might get above 2,000. But the average singer, I mean, it's like a high C. C above the staff on the treble clef is about 1,600, somewhere in that hertz. You know, and most sopranos, most people would have a hard time hitting that note. You know, my wife is a mezzo. She can hit it sometimes on a good day if her throat's doing well. I'm lucky to hit an F on the low F on the treble step, but I'm a bass trying to pretend he's a baritone. So on that. So our hearing. So we define our terms. Now, pitch terms are infra and ultrasonic. By the way, the words subsonic and supersonic, those refer to speed. You might want to make a note of that. When people say supersonic or subsonic, those actually refer to speeds of sound. If you are supersonic, you're going faster than the speed of sound. Subsonic is slower than the speed of sound. That's speed. This is pitch. Ultrasonic and infrasonic. Infra being below 20 hertz. Now, as human beings, we feel that. That would be the ones you feel. You know, you just kind of feel that subwoofer. You feel it in your stomach and things like that. But there are animals that do hear in these ranges, like elephants and the great whales. They communicate in the infrasonic. Some of the vocalizations that they do are actually in this infrasonic region because this infrasonic sound will carry very far. It carries very far through water, and it carries very far through the air. Not very directional. You know, it's not like sonar. On the ship, we did have some of this low frequency sonar that we could hear for very long ranges. We could hear things very long ranges. But if I want good information, like if I was hunting mines, they use very high frequency sonars. They can almost paint a picture. It's kind of like the baby with the ultrasound. Literally, to calibrate it, they will throw a bicycle wheel over the side and watch, and they can see the spokes on the sonar screen. That's how that they use to find this sonar that they use to find mines underwater on that. But that leads us to ultrasonic. These are the frequencies above 20,000 hertz. Again, we cannot hear this. And these frequencies we use for lots of different reasons. They use them for alarm systems, you know, things like that. Motion detectors. Your little motion detectors used ultrasound. They made a clicking sound, but that's so you knew it was on. The actual frequencies that were being used to track were actually above your hearing. You know, the clicking sound was just so you knew it was on. It's kind of like why do you make infrared lamps a little red and ultraviolet lights a little purple? That's just so you know they're on or off. On that. You know, there's some people who worry, well, when my baby has that ultrasound, isn't all that sound going to hurt their ears? It's like, well, but they can't hear it. They have no mechanism in their ear to hear that sound. Okay, so it can't. That's why it doesn't hurt a baby, because there is no. In other words, there's nothing in your hearing that allows you that could be possibly damaged by those frequencies, because you have nothing that works in those frequencies. Yes.
What would it require you to hear?
Pardon?
What would you?
Well, it would just be you would have to have basically. We're going to talk about how the ear works, but basically you would have to have basically frequency receptors that would work in those frequencies. Now, a dog could hear, you know, dogs and cats and other animals, they can hear bats. In fact, bats can't even hear us. We cannot produce, for a lot of bats, we cannot even produce a sound that they can hear. To you know, for us, you know, our vocalization, they can't hear. We're too low. It's too low. For them, that would be their infrasound. They can't hear us. Now, they can feel the vibrations, just like you can hear that thing. So when you're in that cave, they say, well, be very quiet, you don't want to disturb the bats. It's not because they can hear you, it's because they can feel the vibrations. You know, if you're kind of making a ruckus, they feel the vibrations and they get upset. And usually bat caves, it's not like one bat or two bats, it's like 1 million bats, 2 million bats. This is how that works. With these caves that have bats in them, are places where they like to live. Like there's some bridge, I think in Texas, they congregate on the bridge. There's some like 1 million or 2 million bats that live underneath the bridge and things like that. Bats are the most common mammal. The most common species of mammal are bats. I think by weight and number. But I read that, I think that's where I read somewhere. Bats are the most common mammal. Well, I know going to Panama, it's like you're going out at night, it's like there's all these birds flying around. They're not birds. Because we threw a rock in the air, they all veered toward the rock. They're bats. It's like just, the sky is just almost black with bats. It was in Panama. Never seen that before. I guess maybe people who live in other parts of the country, they see that. They see more bats. I mean, there's bats here. We just don't really see them. Yeah, you see them more back east, but you don't. There are bats that live here. There's lots of bats. We just don't really see them.
I'm living in my own house.
Yeah. Trouble bats are very receptive to rabies. That's the trouble with bats. A lot of bats are receptive to rabies. So let's talk about the ear. The ear. This is our bio moment. Our bio moment. So, on the outside, the pinnae, that's the skin part of your ear that helps direct sound into your ear, in the directional part. And it goes into the outer ear. This part outside is the outer ear. This is where the sound waves come in. You know, your outer ear has like little hairs in it, and it has wax, and this is to keep things like bugs and dirt and all that other crud from getting all the way in there. And you don't stick things in your ear. You know, it's like, you know, you get the Q-tip and you get in there. That's a bad thing. One, you could, there is always that possibility you put it far enough you could rupture your eardrum. But two, if you've got all that waxy stuff in there, if you push the Q-tip in, where are you pushing all that wax? You're kind of pushing up against here. I mean, there's other ways to get that stuff out of your ear. You don't want to stick things in your ear just on that. All right, so this is the outer ear. This is an area where you might get infections. Usually you get infections here, they give you eardrops, things like that. It's an area of that. Middle ear. The middle ear is this section here, kind of in the pink. And the middle ear is an area where you would find the bones. So basically, sound wave comes in the outer ear. It hits the eardrum. It starts to push the eardrum. Those compressions push the eardrum in. And the rarefactions, it comes back out. And you have these three bones, the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. You know, they have Greek, they have Latin names, but we usually know them by that. Those are the three smallest bones in the body. They are levers. They are levers. And they basically take the motion here and they push it on. There's another little like membrane here on the inner ear. Now on the outer ear actually connects to the back of your throat. The nose passages through a thing called the eustachian tube. That's when you go up in the mountains or you go up high and your ears pop. What's happening is they're equalizing. They're equalizing pressure. Air is coming through basically, so you have equal pressure on the inside, in the middle ear, and the outside. And that's what happens when you get sick. This all gets clogged up and you fill this area with fluid and you get these ear infections and stuff like that. This is a problem with little kids though. See, it's at an angle. In you, it's at an angle. Small children, it's almost flat. That's why little kids can get a lot of ear infections, because what happens is fluid gets caught in there. Like my kids had to have this. What they do is they put in a little thing here where, oh, there it is. I forgot to turn that off. What happens is they have to put a little tube, a little teeny tiny tube. And we actually got one. It fell out. We found it. Because they'll come out by themselves. Sometimes they have to pull them out. Sometimes they put them in there. But they put a little tube in there, and that allows the fluid inside to drain out on that, which is always fun right after they have surgery. And put it in because they get all this green stuff kind of pouring out of their ears. But that's what caused the ear infection. It caused hearing loss. My daughter did have some hearing loss as a baby because of all this fluid. She couldn't hear things. And she actually had to go to speech therapy like before she started school. Because my wife was the only one that understood her. She would say things to us, I have no idea. So I look at my wife, it's like, okay, what'd she say? Her preschool teachers would be like, oh, we don't understand. So she actually had to go to speech therapy because she had so much fluid in her ears, she was not hearing the sounds correctly. So she sounded like she had her mouth full of mashed potatoes all the time, talking. You know, so on that. Still has a little bit of hearing issues still. After